Hey there, guys. All right, today we are back with some more geography now. On to putting geography now into their new time slot for the channel here. Um, this is New Zealand or Aotearoa. Aotearoa. I thought there was supposed to be, or is it Aotearoa? I thought there was like Rora. I thought that was how it was spelled. That's how it sounds to me when I hear people online pronouncing it. Anyways, before I dive in, make sure you go and check out the links in the description box below. I would love it if you joined the Discord and followed me over at Twitch. And please do go check out the gaming channel here on YouTube where I upload old streams and post stupid clips of me embarrassing myself on the internet. Because obviously I haven't embarrassed myself enough. Now, you're right. And then once you go do all that, come back and watch this video in its entirety. Now, how much support or discussion is there around changing the name of New Zealand to Aotearoa? Because at least in the circles that I purview on the internet, it seems to have some significant backing. They could also just be the circle I'm in. I'm curious to know. Let me know in the comments. Now let's dive in.
Now, when I think of New Zealand, really only one word seems to come to mind. Tau matawhakatangi hanga ko au o tamatea tsuri pu ka piki maunga horo nuku pokai whenua kita na tahu.
I think of Lord of the Rings.
It's time to learn geography
now!
Hey everyone, I'm your host Barbs. New Zealand is one of those places where a few people have made a powerful image for themselves. It's one of the last places on Earth to be discovered and inhabited by humans. And when they arrived, it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. Mostly because there were these massive 12 feet tall bird monsters. We'll get into that in a bit. But first,
I refuse to believe those monsters were real.
New Zealand is not only a key player in the ocean nations, but a geographic anomaly. As in, half the time when you look at artwork or decorations or newscasts or even educational books, New Zealand is forgotten from the map. Kiwis even joke about it. Even their government website 404 page not found website pokes fun at it. Anyway, New Zealand or Aotearoa is located in the southwestern Pacific Ocean, about 1,200 miles or 2,000 kilometers off the coast of Australia, and about 600 miles or 1,000 kilometers from the nearest major islands of Fiji, Tonga, and New Caledonia. Meaning technically France is their closest neighbor. The country is made up of two main large islands, aptly named the North Island, or Te Ika a Maui, which makes up about 42% of the landmass, yet holds about 3/4 of the population, and the larger, yet less populated South Island, or Te Waiponamu, at about 56% of the landmass. The remaining 2-ish% of the landmass is made up of—
I thought the name Aotearoa was referring to just one of the islands, the South or the North Island. Was I misled?
Hundreds of interior and outlying islands, 33 main ones that are either around the main two islands, like the largest one, Stewart Island, just south of South Island. Then you have the outlying island chains, like the northernmost Kermadec Islands, the easternmost Chatham Islands, and the sub-Antarctic southernmost point, the Campbell Islands. The country is a unitary state divided into 16 councils, 11 regional councils, and 5 unitary regional councils. The Chatham Islands act as their own special territorial authority. The second largest city, Wellington, is the capital, the southernmost capital in the world. However, Auckland up north is the largest city, which holds about a third of the entire population of the country, with the largest and busiest airport, Auckland International. Otherwise, Christchurch on South Island is the third largest city and holds the second busiest airport, Christchurch International. But wait, that's not all. The sovereignty claim extends even further, and then you get the 3 New Zealand realm territories and free association island nations. These are Tokelau, the Cook Islands, and Niue. Tokelau is considered a non-self-governing dependent territory. It also has a territorial dispute with American Samoa over Swains Island, whereas the Cook Islands and Niue are labeled as self-governing states in free association with New Zealand. Finally, you have the Ross Dependency, which is New Zealand's claim to Antarctica, which of course under the Antarctic Treaty does not actually fall under their sovereignty, but you know, a lot of people like to say they have something they can't. Whew, for a nation that doesn't even show up half the time on maps, there's a lot going on here.
But wait, if New Zealand is just an island in the middle of the Pacific, which continent is New Zealand a part of?
Ah, good question. That is a question that has kind of stumped cartographers for centuries. In the simplest sense, categorically, New Zealand is part of the broader region known as Oceania, which is basically just Australia plus everything else in Melanesia, Micronesia, and Polynesia. Technically, Australia and New Zealand together are called Australasia. However, it's weird because New Zealand doesn't lie on the same continental shelf as Australia. This has led to the consideration of New Zealand belonging to a newer subregion known as Zealandia, classified by some dude in the 90s as either a continental fragment or a microcontinent made up of a submerged continental crust shelf that expands all the way from New Caledonia to an empty spot in the ocean just south of the Campbell Islands. 93% of Zealandia is submerged, with New Zealand being the largest protruding segment. Either way, however you want to categorize it, New Zealand is kinda strange.
Wait, go back to the self-governing island thing. Do they belong to New Zealand, or are they full countries?
Good question. It's kind of like this. Okay guys, look, the British just kind of put you under my jurisdiction, so I guess that means you're all New Zealand citizens, okay?
Yeah, but we all have our own languages and customs and want to write a constitution for ourselves with free association status. We're basically countries in our own right, but under your overarching sovereignty, I guess.
Like, your military can come in for defense, but otherwise we got everything else covered.
I mean, guys, I have less than 2,000 people on less than 5 square miles of land on 3 islands. I think I'll just become a dependent territory state.
Alright, fair enough. 2 kind of countries with loose ties and 1 dependent territory country with stronger ties. Got it.
Plus, hey, I became the first completely solar-powered nation in the world.
Not exactly fully functional sovereign nation state by definition, but yeah, good for you. Some places of interest in New Zealand might include the world's steepest street at a gradient of 38 degrees, the National Museum, Auckland's Sky Tower, you can actually jump off of it,
Nope.
Rotorua geysers in traditional Maori village, Rainbow's End and Splash Planet, the International Antarctic Center, Hobbiton.
Okay, I was wondering how long is he gonna take to fucking mention Hobbiton, goddammit.
So many wine fields like the ones in Marlborough, 90 Mile Beach, which is
You know, I'm just saying he's not putting much respect on Lord of the Rings here. That would have been like the first thing I mentioned in this video. Just saying, Barbie, just saying. I might lose some respect here.
is actually only 56 miles, Waitomo Caves with glowworms, Frying Pan Lake, and the Meraki spherical boulders. And honestly, I could go on and on with all the natural wonders of this country, but that would take like 50 videos, and we gotta cram as much as we can in this one. So let's just talk about all the natural stuff of New Zealand, shall we?
Hobbiton is natural.
Now, New Zealand is an outdoors country, world-renowned for its mind-blowingly wonderful landscape displayed in a number of films and movies.
Fun fact, The Lord of the Rings gave them so much publicity and tourism money that they even have a Minister of the Rings in their parliament.
Oh, do they now?
You wrote the script for the episode, and I'm just reading off the teleprompter, so I figured you would know that.
I did. First of all, the country is located in the Ring of Fire on the convergence of the Pacific and Australian plates that creates the mountainous southern Alps of the southern island. Here you can find the tallest peak, Mount Cook or Aoraki, at over 12,000 feet or 3,700 meters, whereas across the Cook Strait, the smaller Kaweka Range can be found on the North Island. This, in return, makes the country subject to earthquakes and volcanic activity. There are about 83 known volcanoes of all types, and the largest active one being Ruapehu on North Island. Otherwise, you can see other volcanic wonders like the dormant Banks Peninsula on South Island, and the eerily perfect circular Mount Taranaki on the west side of North Island. Just a skip away, you find the largest lake, Lake Taupo in the Taupo caldera, one of the largest supervolcanoes on Earth. From there, the lake is drained by the longest river of the country, the Waikato. Now, New Zealand is interesting because due to its shape, there is no part of the country that is more than about 80 miles or so from the ocean. The flatter valleys on the sides of the mountains are where most people live and produce crops and livestock. Skip a little further west and you get the least inhabited and difficult to access, but most breathtaking part of New Zealand, the Fiordland. Steep cliffs plunging into the Tasman Sea, with Milford Sound being the most popular spot and the only one accessible by road. New Zealand ranks as one of the top most landform diverse countries on Earth, having everything from alpine forests, glaciers, geothermal geysers. They even have a small desert in the middle of North Island. And on some of the coasts, you have tropical beaches with geysers. They even have a small...
Isn't that where they filmed the final battle in Return of the King? You know, Black Gate? That's what it looks like. But isn't that also a military testing thing or something? Like there are like landmines there or something? I'm going off of the behind the scenes information that I remember from the Lord of the Rings tapes.
Small desert in the middle of North Island, and on some of the coasts you have tropical beaches with magnetic black sand containing magnetite. Seriously, I still have some. Check it out. This is from Piha Beach in North Island. Whoa, it sticks on. Now, the one thing about New Zealand that set it apart upon discovery is that other than 2 species of bat, the entire island had no mammals prior to human encounter. Now, this is usually the part where Noah comes in, but he had a scheduling conflict. They couldn't be here today, so therefore
No.
Saw Min Random Hannah. Hannah, take it away.
The country is a bird haven with over 200 species, over half endemic to New Zealand. And the funny thing, many of which are flightless. It's like the flightless bird capital of the world. Species such as the kakapo, the world's only flightless nocturnal parrot, and they have more species of penguin than anywhere else on the planet. At one point a long time ago, they used to have the moa, a 12-foot tall monster, until it was hunted by the native Maori to extinction. Then you have the national animal, the famous kiwi, a flightless bird which comes in 5 forms on both islands. Known for their hair-like feathers, long beaks with nostrils, making them some of the only few bird species that can smell. Otherwise, with flying birds, you have the kia, the world's only alpine parrot. And if you see one, they are curious creatures, unafraid of humans, that love to chew on shiny objects or rubber.
Seriously, those guys tried to steal my stuff one time.
Outside of the bird world, you can find reptiles like the AOTEAROA, which has a 3rd parietal eye on the top of its head, or the giant weta, the heaviest insect on Earth. Ugh. Resource-wise, the country is known for its huge dairy farming and livestock industry. Jade or greenstone is a precious stone mined and sold here, as well often carved into jewelry or traditional Maori tools and ornament. Besides all that though, much of the country makes money through tourism, specifically outdoor tourism, specifically Queensland on South Island. This place offers everything from skydiving, paragliding, and zorbing, which by the way, the Kiwis invented. And speaking of Kiwi inventions, food! Kiwis are without a doubt seafood folk. Native species like gurnard, hoki, hake, hapuku, pawa, and crayfish are made into
Crayfish, I would probably eat. I don't think the other kind of fish I would.
numerous
I'm not a seafood boy. I'm not. I do like crab though. Crab can taste really fucking good. As long as I forget about the whole fact that the crab is alive pretty much up until it's on my plate.
dishes. Cooked, raw, smoked, steamed, battered, and fried with chips. If that's not your thing, some non-fishy Kiwi dishes might include things like roast lamb, savory meat pies, hokey pokey ice cream,
Ooh.
Kiwi-style burger, manuka honey, kumara, LNP drink, pavlova cake, and one of the most traditional Maori dishes, hangi. And speaking of cultural tradition, we go to...
Bum, bum, bum.
Thank you, Hannah. Feel free to follow her on Instagram.
No problem.
Yeah, that's a thing now. Now, this is going to be the best part of the episode because the people of New Zealand, known as Kiwis, are the biggest treasure you'll find. First of all, the country has about 5 million people and often ranks as one of the top 3 Ease of Business Index countries in the world with the least corruption. At somewhere around 74%, the country is made up primarily of peoples of European descent, mostly of English, Scottish, and Irish ancestry. About 15% of the country is native Maori, 7% Pacific Islander, and the rest are mostly Asian of various countries like...
Is it Maori or Maori? Is it wrong to say Maori? Because when I see the M-A-O, the way I've learned language in the English, good old English, is that forms Mao. But he's pronouncing it Maori, and he does more research than I do in this stuff. So I'm assuming he's right. But would it be wrong to keep saying Maori? Because it's just easier.
like China, Korea, and Japan. Yes, by the way, it's pronounced Maori, not Maori, Maori. They use the New Zealand dollar as their currency, they use the Type I plug outlet, and they drive on the left side of the road.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming, but I wanted to forget. I wanted to believe that maybe they had changed. They didn't. They still drive on the wrong side of the road, and they likely will continue to drive on the wrong side of the road.
Now, we all know that English is the most widely spoken language in the country with a distinct Kiwi dialect. To outsiders, it sounds just like the Australian one, but they swear it's different. They have some distinct Kiwi words.
No, that... As someone... Maybe it's just because I've listened to a lot of New Zealanders talk. There's a difference. Maybe it's just because I've watched Lord of the Rings behind the scenes like 5 times, a bunch of times. There's a difference. It's pretty easy to. It's actually not that hard to figure out the difference. Honestly, New Zealanders. Now the accents are very similar. I will say that they are very similar, but like New Zealanders, their accent just comes across more chill, more relaxed. Australians, more not mean, more Scottish. Actually, here, I think this actually works. Uh, Australians are like, they sound more Scottish, and then New Zealanders are like more Irish. I don't know if that comparison makes any sense, but in my head, the way I kind of think of how Scottish sounds to my ears compared to how like Irish sounds more chill to me than Scottish, right? This probably doesn't make any sense at all, and it is definitely a subjective thing based on what kind of, I guess, sounds your ears like. But New Zealand's more chill to me. I like the New Zealand accent more so than the Australian.
Here's my Kiwi buddy Jared explaining.
Bro, it's a beaut. I'm off to the dairy. Is that us? Yeah, nah, it's a cracker, but it's ages and we're in the wops. Ig, you're taking the piss. It's close as. Chuck on your jandals and it'll be a piece of piss. Whatever then, only if you stop rocking me out. Stoked. Sweet as.
Nonetheless, there are actually two other official languages of New Zealand, Maori and New Zealand Sign Language, making New Zealand the first country to adopt signing as an official language, even though only half of 1% knows it. Now let's talk about culture and the whole Maori thing. The Maori traditionally come from about 100 or so iwi, or tribes or peoples, spread throughout both islands. Most in the north part of the country, the largest being the Ngapuhi at over 100,000 people. Their culture is a huge integral factor that plays into—
Holy shit, this man is jacked. Look at that. Holy fucking goddamn. Dude. How did you get your muscles like that? Jesus Christ, I'm jealous.
what it means to be Kiwi. I mean, instead of hello, you'll often hear the Maori word kia ora as a greeting. Most schools teach the Maori language in elementary years, and there are immersion schools as well. In addition, they have a few television channels and radio stations that speak almost entirely in Maori. Today, the majority of native speakers are found in the North Island, most heavily concentrated in the Northland and Gisborne and Bay of Plenty regions. And speaking of Maori, we cannot do this episode without talking about the haka. Almost everyone on the island knows one form of the traditional war dance, performed by both men and women, known for its aggressive movements, loud chanting, and intimidating facial expressions. Very often it's performed at sporting events. The haka is not only used at games or as a means to intimidate though. It can be used in a variety of situations, ranging from birthday parties, funerals, even weddings, where the people celebrate the union of two people happily, and everyone takes part in it, whether you are ethnically Maori or non-Maori. It's a tradition that really unites everyone on the island, regardless of race. Pretty cool, right? And now let's talk about tattoos, and actually, let's have another co-host do this. Let's see, which options do I have? Who can I select? Let's see, Hannah already did one. Why not Ken? All right, Ken, take it away.
You might occasionally come across someone with kirituhi, or skin art, or tamoko, which are face tattoos. There's so much information that goes into this, but basically, Maori tradition did not have a specific written script. Instead, they use a documented information and history through a series of wood carvings and tattoos. No two are alike, as each person's tattoos told a specific story of who they were. Generally, the left side is reserved for the father's lineage, and the right side, the mother's. The patterns can describe everything from tribe, rank, work, expertise, athletic accomplishments, and so on. In other news, Kiwis are pretty athletic. You cannot talk about New Zealand without mentioning rugby. They are 3-time World Cup championship winners, and often when they don't win, they place in the top 3.
Thank you, Ken. Feel free to follow him on Instagram. And now it's time to talk about history. In the quickest way I can summarize it: Bird Island, no humans. Maori come in from Polynesia, maybe sometime around the 1200s.
Really? That late? I knew we came in late, but 1200s? Damn.
Paw settlements established, Moa bird is hunted to extinction, tribal battles for land, Abel Tasman becomes the first European to come in contact. They kind of forget about it until the British come in by like 100 years later. For a while, they just kind of traded with the Maori, intertribal wars with the new weapons that they acquired by the Europeans, missionaries, British colony, New Zealand wars, Treaty of Waitangi, controversy with mistranslation, self-government within the British Empire, women's suffrage, massive immigration wave, World War I, they play a role in Pacific warfare against German-occupied Samoa, World War II, they play a role again in the Pacific, but this time against the Japanese in Papua New Guinea, Statute of Westminster Adoption Act, Muldoon years, 1980 reforms, 1990s and early 2000s, business really starts to boom, earthquake in Christchurch, some notable people from New Zealand or of Kiwi.
They really are starting to really add more in depth to the history. I really like how much history is kind of in here now. I think that's like a good, the amount that they have been doing the last few episodes feels like the right amount. I'm really digging it.
Kiwi descent might include people like Hongihika, Honeheke, Tepuea Herangi, Maui Pomare, Hotatau Te Ferofero, Ernest Rutherford, Kate Shepard, Sir Apirana Ngata, Sir Edmund Hillary, Sir Peter Jackson, Jacinda Ardern, Russell Crowe, Jonah Lomu, Sir Colin Meads, Dame Fina Cooper, Flight of the Conchords, Bruce McLaren, Catherine Mansfield, Lord, and the meme
So, like, I only knew 4 of the people that he did.
page Dolan Dark, I was told. Yeah, quite a few cool Kiwis out there, which brings us to our next segment, the Kiwi Crew. They're friends. The Friend Zone.
Bum, bum, bum.
Alright, diplomatically speaking, New Zealand, for lack of a better term, is basically like Australia's Canada. They get along with nearly everyone, and unless if it's a rugby match, it's hard to harbor any animosity towards them. And even if it is a rugby match, it's like, okay, you guys can win. Just do that haka thing again. First of all, as part of numerous international organizations, New Zealand has harnessed an international network of alliances since its inception. For one, South Africa, Argentina, Uruguay, and Chile have had close links as members of the Convention for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources. These 5 nations kind of act as like the southern gateways to Antarctica, and they hold a high level of responsibility when it comes to monitoring the South Seas. China has an interesting, kind of good, but kind of controversial relationship with New Zealand. Not only have Chinese immigrants been living in New Zealand since the 19th century, but in 2008, a bold move with a free trade agreement was established, and today they are the second largest import and export partner. The problem is the housing market. Many Chinese investors have bought out property in metropolitan areas that remain unused and empty for the purpose of real estate appreciation. This has left many Kiwis unable to live in the houses in their own country. This has frustrated many of them for a long time, leaving them to ask the government for reforms in foreign investment policy. As a former British colony, they've always been closely linked to the UK, and UK citizens, often Scottish, choose to migrate and live in New Zealand. Problem is distance. New Zealand
Oh, so I was kind of wrong about the Scott. I was somehow the New Zealand accent reminds me more of how I feel about the Irish accent, despite their the immigrants being more Scottish. I don't know what it is. Yep. Oopsies.
New Zealand is one of the furthest members in the Commonwealth from
I stand by the fact that the New Zealand act that this is completely derailed, unrelated. The Irish accent better than the Scottish. Better than the Scottish. I like it more. It's more relaxing to me. And to, of course, the New Zealand accent is the most relaxing of the New Zealand accent. I really fucking do.
the UK, and over time the UK relations waned as the UK paid more attention to the EU. Nonetheless, they've grown up, don't need to hold mommy's hand anymore, and they can handle their own affairs. Then we get to the quadfecta, the USA, Canada, and Australia. There is somewhat of an unspoken, unbreakable bond between these 4. New Zealand has fought alongside the US in almost every major global event from the 20th century and on. There was a slight hiccup in the ANZUS Security Treaty in the 80s in which they decided to initiate a nuclear-free zone in their territorial waters. Nonetheless, relations are still strong and they are considered one of the closest allies. Canada and New Zealand are very close though. They both think very similarly and are both Commonwealth nations with the same queen as their technical head of state. Both share similar views on a variety of issues. Both are the smaller versions of a bigger neighbor that gets all the attention. Business, trade, and tourism is strong between them, and in a way they kind of love each other for all these reasons. When it comes to their best friend, however, as much as they love to poke fun, mock, ridicule, and spit on each other, they cannot deny that Australia is the closest. Australia even has a clause in its constitution that allows New Zealand to become a part of their country if they should ever want to for whatever reason, although New Zealand is like, thanks, but no. Australia is not only the largest trading and business partner, but also has the closest history and culture. The two have a unique Trans-Tasman agreement that states that citizens of each country can migrate and have automatic residency. The two go hand in hand, however, when Australia isn't looking, Canada kind of slips in and they kind of go off on secret dates. In conclusion, as humanity's last major expedition, you can imagine how the first settlers must have felt when they approached on this unknown world of glaciers, volcanoes, glowing caves, geysers, and giant 12-foot tall bird monsters. You don't need Lord of the Rings. New Zealand already is a real-life fantasy. Stay tuned. Nicaragua is coming
I'll
next.
keep my Lord of the Rings. Thank you very much. And that was Geography Now, New Zealand, or Aotearoa. I hope you guys enjoyed. This was a good episode. I think this is around the 17-minute length. Felt pretty good. It felt really well paced. I don't think it needs to go any longer than that, but we know that longer videos are coming. we will soon, we're not far away from the 30-minute videos. I'm curious how well those are going to feel paced. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.